Howdy, Aggies. This time next week, talking season will be laid to rest. All the prognosticators, fortune tellers, and prophets will retreat back into the shadows and work endlessly to contextualize their comments as week one gets underway. Your Fighting Texas Aggies will be among them, and we will find out just what we are made of. Welcome to the Aggie Central podcast, where we are talking all things cultish. Like, share, and subscribe so you can get that Kool-Aid every time we make a new batch. I just so happen to have a pitcher available because on Saturday, Sam Houston State will travel just 55 miles from Huntsville, Texas to play your Fighting Texas Aggies in the first game of the 2022 season. Sam Houston State was founded in 1879 and is the third oldest public university in Texas, right behind TU. You know who's first. Named after Sam Houston, Congressman, Tennessee Governor, and first President of the Republic of Texas, Sam Houston State boasts an enrollment of 20,000. Alumni include national journalist Dan Rather, NFL QB Josh McCown, and Dazed and Confused director Richard Linklater. Sam Houston State was the original site for Austin College, a team A&M played back in the 19-teens when we were Texas AMC. What does that have to do with this matchup this Saturday? Not a dadgum thing, but I thought you might like to know. So let's get to the nitty-gritty. We've played a total of 12 games going back to 1919. We've held them scoreless 7 times, the most recent being in 1941. They have scored a grand total of 82 points against us all time. 56 of those points came in the last 2 matchups in 2012 and 2013. Last time out, we racked up a total of 714 yards, 214 on the ground, 500 through the air. We were ranked number 7 at the time, coming off of Johnny's Heisman, and looking for a repeat, he put up 426 yards passing with 3 TDs and ran for 1 more. Ben Molina was carrying the ball, and Mike Evans was doing Mike Evans kinds of things to the tune of 7 catches for 155 yards. But we were also a far cry from being a wrecking crew, allowing 390 total yards, 240 of those on the ground, which rewarded the Bearcats with 28 points. I'll pause a moment for you to internalize that. In the second game of the year, we gave up 28 points to Sam Houston State. No disrespect, but consider the context. The week before this matchup, we gave up 31 to Rice. Then Johnny and Evans somehow kept the Bama game to 49-42 despite the L. A few weeks later, Vandy hangs 24 on us after that BS horse collar loss to Auburn the week before. I went to that game. I saw that. And am I still reeling from that game? You dadgum right I am. Ultimately, we go on to lose to LSU and the SEC East champions, Missouri. Now, why I mention all that? I'll tell you why. Because when we let teams like Sam Houston State shove 28 points down our throat, you can count on an 8-4 season. When you struggle to beat Colorado by 3, you can count on an 8-4 season. It's like illegally parking on campus. You can expect to get a ticket. If Sam Houston puts up more than 17 on us September 3rd, next weekend, next Saturday at 11 a.m., can we count on an 8-4 season? Well, does Dolly Parton sleep on her back? The truth is, although the Bearcats are an FCS team, they are the equivalent of a Clemson at that level, and the colors match. They played South Dakota State in 2021 for the FCS championship and went to the semifinals last year, going 11-1 on the season. This team is no slouch. They have a solid roster with a core defensive lineman unit holding around 295 and 2 handfuls of offensive linemen at 300 plus. Their LBs are dressing out at around 220 on the regular and a stable of running backs that would do well in any claiming race at Sam Houston Race Park. Having said that, we should be looking to dismantle this team. They're replacing their QB Schmid, who threw for 2,800 yards, accounting for 29 TDs and a completion percentage of 58%. They'll also be replacing Jefferson, who ran with vision and patience, the alpha in that stable, who transferred to Kentucky after running for nearly 1,200 yards, 13 TDs for a 6.7 yard per carry. The Cats will seamlessly rotate Keegan Shoemaker in at the helm as a guy who went out and won a tough game against their rival SFA last year with a comeback. Oklahoma State transfer Desmond Jackson, coming in at 5'11 and 220 pounds, will do nicely at replacing Jefferson to lead a group they will count on to balance their attack. They were very active through the air as their focal point of attack, leaning on Aggies, who reeled in 54 catches for 742 yards and 10 TDs last year. Noah Smith will be someone to keep an eye on, with him being their Anaya Smith of the team, by utilizing him as a running back and a wide receiver to add wrinkles. Their production from the QB, running backs, and wide receivers would all be for naught if they can't protect and punish their offensive line. They will return only one starter this season in redshirt freshman Derry Patton. He will be accompanied by redshirt senior Moses Johnson and junior Ethan Hagler, who will anchor the group. From there, they are working to solidify their line with a host of transfers from Cal Poly, Davidson, and Houston. The Cats will run their offense almost exclusively out of 10 personnel, not really using a tight end very much, although they are capable of putting a tight end in the game, but they usually only add this to their offense on short yardage situations. On the whole, they are a run and gun offense that utilizes the RPO as needed. The biggest difference you are likely to see when they square up on Saturday is the quality of their quarterback play. Okay, so it's clear that the FCS level arm strength is a step down. That in turn affects accuracy and the type of throw that can be made. Now the real question is, how will they match up against the Aggie defense, particularly the front seven? It's true that the Bearcats have some size. However, at this level, athletes usually have one or the other. Size or speed, not both. Expect the same to be true. So the Cats will have some size on the line, but they will not have the quickness. The deficit means there will be ample opportunity for our defensive line to get after their QB on the inside and outside. The tackles will be able to cross-face and attack the gap with a half-step advantage. Couple that with a more physical line, and you have a recipe for disruption. There will be an even more stark advantage on the edge. Our ends will be able to attack their tackles outside edge with speed they won't be able to match. If our line is able to operate in this manner, it will be a long day for their QB, and our secondary will eat. But the Sam Houston coaches know this, so they will adjust their game plan to quick release passes and screens to the running backs and wide receivers. The RPO will serve them well to hold our linebackers from full-on entering the box, but that still plays into our hand because we're looking to be patient and let our linemen eat. Overall, the outlook for this offense versus our defense is bleak. It's like if you were a Lane's chicken tender and you were thinking about trying not to get dipped in that secret sauce. It's not looking good for you. I'm expecting a number of sacks and at least one INT in this game. Now, switching sides, our offense will face off against a familiar look in the Bearcats 4-2-5 defense. They have also been heavy players in the portal with additions from Colorado, Coastal Carolina, Colorado State, and TCU, proving this place has more options than Freebirds. Their scheme is a press 2 high safety look that transitions to man coverage. They like to overload and stunt to get pressure on the QB, provided coverage is sound. They do this with their senior linebacker, Trevor Williams, a familiar face around College Station, having played in his high school ball with A&M Consolidated. The Cats will need to replace Tristan and Zion McCollum, who are mainstays at DB for them, making the FCS version of All-American. These two were two of their top 3 tacklers and provided solid coverage to give them the ability to get pressure on opposing QBs. The Bearcats' last loss was against Montana State, who ironically had a lot of success against these two. The key was a wide receiver who knew how to keep their body between the defender and the ball. Coverage was good by these two in most cases, but the wide receiver was able to make the catch with the room they gave themselves with this technique. On the front side of the defense, Montana State took advantage of heavy sets and even consistently worked in a fullback. More gaps meant more opportunities to be out of place by their linebackers and missed filling a gap. In this matchup, missed assignments in combination when overloading to blitz proved to be a grave miscalculation. The fundamental issue sparked a fire that Sam Houston had trouble controlling all night, that even the Brazos County Fire Department services couldn't have kept under control. To fan the flame, Montana State dialed up deep throws like they were a stay-at-home mom with unlimited long-distance calling back in 1995. To make matters worse and toss gasoline on, their QB threw 3 INTs. So we're going to win this game. The question is by how much, and what can we hold them to? Can we shut them out? Maybe hold them under 7? Will we allow a couple of touchdowns, one early, one late? What's the expectation? So for me, anything over 17 by Sam Houston State, while not scoring more than 42, and I think we're probably staring at 8-4 season again in the face. That differential is just not enough differential for me between what we're going to allow and what we're going to score. We could maybe make 9-3, maybe better with an amazing D or an amazing O. 10-2 or better could be a possibility so long as one is absolutely elite. If we only score 42-ish points, our offensive line probably isn't elite. And if we allow 17 plus, our defensive line probably isn't elite. So you look at having to have, say, above average quality on both sides of the ball for you really to put that kind of season together. So for me, that's kind of what I'm looking for in this game. I'm allowing, say 9 to 12 points, and our D is probably good, maybe very good. 7 or less, and it's a superb D. 3 or less, and it's possible. It's amazing. You can't be an elite offense or defense off of one game, right? But you can dadgum sure not be elite off of one game. And you go out and do something like this, and I don't think you can really count on that sort of thing being the case. Why? Because here we are the first game of the year, and you're not ready. You're playing what should be an inferior opponent, and you're allowing more than 17 points. When we did this in the past, it's not turned out well. And so I just really guide us to history to understand this. Now, my thoughts are 42 to 45 points from our offense, and I would say they're very good. Okay? Anything less than that, it's just probably average. 46 to 50, and they're above average. Well above average. 50 to 55, it could be amazing, and 55 plus, and they may be elite, right? So I don't think I'm comfortable with saying exactly what they are, more so than I am saying what they're not at this point, all right? So if we struggle somewhere around 35 points, I'm really questioning exactly what we got going on here. There will also have to be an eye test we're going to factor into this whole thing, post-game reaction. It's important how you score these points and how you give them up. If we're throwing, say, 2 or 3 INTs like we did against Kent State last year, we're struggling to kind of get to that 42 range, I'm kind of wondering if we start slow and we go out and we punt the first possession, I'm already starting to wonder. I'm not necessarily saying we have to score touchdown first possession, but I think that's something we ought to be able to do, and we ought to be able to expect out of an offense that we're putting on the field if we have 10-2 hopes, 11-1 hopes, or higher. 9-3, we can probably manage that with that sort of situation, but keep your expectation in mind depending on how this does. So, I don't know. My prediction is this. I believe our D will hold them to 7 or less the whole way. I think our second string is going to be good enough that they're not going to allow much from them. When they get the ball turned over to them late in the game, offense and defense. I think our offense will go for 45 plus. How much more than that? That's going to be up to them. It's going to be up to the second stringers. If Haynes King is QB1, Max comes in, and then we rotate in, say, Amari Daniels for the rest of the way at running back, maybe some LJ or Moss. We'll see what they want to do. We're going to see what this second offensive line wants to do. That's going to be a big deal. What about those wide receivers? How much of a fall off are we going to have after that? Same thing with DBs. When we get into that second string DB, are we going to be giving up yardage in chunks? Are they going to be gashing us on the ground with that second string defensive line? I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there'll be some things given up. I don't think we're going to hold them to, half the field at that point. But it is going to be something they're probably going to be able to move the ball a little bit. But can we keep them from scoring? I'd really like to see some solid 3 and outs from the second string we traditionally have a lot of trouble moving the ball when they come in. And teams like Alabama, the ones that we're trying to be, aren't having that issue. So I'm a betting man, and if I can get odds, and if they are somewhere around, I don't know, minus 31 for A&M, I'd probably take us every day of the week and twice on Saturdays. Somewhere in the neighborhood of about 35 to 38, favoring A&M, I think is where Vegas is actually going to have us. I think we will still cover that. I don't think people are expecting our offense or defensive side of the ball to actually show up polished. I think the number 6 rating that we've got so far, even though it's pretty consistent around, you look at 247, late kick, AP poll, I think even ESPN. Gosh, I think I even, sadly enough, saw that RJ Young had us in like the top 6. So you got a lot of people that have us up there. Do they really believe that's where we are? It's hard to say because there's been a lot of negative talk about it. I would feel confident if those things were put out by, let's just say, David Pollock. I would feel maybe a little bit more. I mean, even Desmond Howard was coming out kind of saying some very encouraging things about what he thinks our season could be recently. But some of those I would maybe get on board with because they would be predicting it and talking it. But I don't hear a whole lot of national pundits really talking about it, except for ones I trust like late kick. So my thought is that they've got us up there maybe to save face a little bit, but they don't really think that that's what we're going to do. They got too many questions about our QB. They don't think Haynes King can actually get it done. They're not confident in the backup situation there. They don't think our defensive line can be replaced. And I've even heard people talking about how they don't, let's just put it this way. They've taken Arkansas's secondary over ours and said it's a clear advantage when that matchup comes along for the Razorbacks. They also believe that it's a clear advantage for the Razorbacks in the running back room. Time will tell, so all the talkings will come to an end next week. I'm confident. I'm confident in the Aggs. Saturday will win big. They'll cover the spread, and they'll start a campaign to wake up the college football establishment. This time next week, we'll get to react to the game. I'm going to analyze it. We'll discuss the actual numbers, the actual game, and how we played. So if you haven't, like and subscribe so you can join us each week for all the Maroon Kool-Aid. And I can't wait to see you back here after we play and beat the hell out of Sam Houston State, and we'll do it all over again. All right? Until then, thanks and gig 'em.